I'm looking at digital transformation and the threats that we're seeing from the whole cybersecurity environment. I'm joined here by Iain Patterson. Iain's going to be sharing some of his experiences, particularly from the public sector. Iain was famously the CIO at DVLA that oversaw the transformation that did away with the tax disc and that is still held up as one of the best examples of digital transformation in the public sector. He was also responsible for the London 2012 Olympics, where he was CIO in one of the most challenging greenfield instances. Obviously, again, a very high-profile event that was the subject of an enormous number of attacks that he successfully managed to overcome. And Iain is going to share with us some of his experiences in the realm of digital transformation, specifically for an audience that we're hopefully going to be seeing at Digital Transformation Expo in October, where I will be speaking and hopefully sharing further examples from other experts in this particular field. But turning to you, Iain, share with me possibly some of the biggest challenges that you see in the sort of digital transformation perspective in the public sector here in the UK.
Certainly, thanks Bill. I think the first thing is, which may not sit comfortably with everybody, is that don't think of, quite often you hear people talking about transformation program and transformation program aspects, and then basically just channeling everything through to the program to deliver the transformation. Transformation, true transformation, especially in towards a digital sense of delivery, is really holistic. So it has to be through the whole organisation. Don't contain it to a program and expect the program to deliver it and nothing else change on the outside. One of the, I suppose, number one things I look at is making sure everybody is collaborating to transformation through the whole organisation. So that's top down through the whole organisation. Don't just try to isolate it and make it potentially an IT thing or a tech thing. It is far wider than that, and it's cultural as well. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is really understand your landscape of your systems, how they work, basically how data is used, where that resides, etc. That's really important. The other piece, clearly, is really be articulate about the vision of what your transformed organisation looks like. So everybody can share in that vision, understand, share in that picture, and therefore you're driving towards that one particular thing, and that's also very important. The key thing you see particularly is putting your citizens, your customers, if you like, at the heart of the transformation piece. Why are you doing this? Why are you transforming? And how do they fit into that? Because primarily they are the drivers, particularly in the public sector. They are services that people consume, and therefore people need to be at the centre of your thinking, that transformation process.
And I believe one of the things that's top of mind at the moment is the skills that exist within the public sector and seeking to professionalise the IT function within the professional sector. I mean, we see CIOs or people in positions of responsibility that only have a tenure of a year or two in the public sector, whereas typically it's far longer tenure in the private sector that leads to far greater continuity. How do you see the challenges of leadership in IT within the public sector, and of the skills problem within the public sector IT profession as a whole?
Well, one of the things I saw, and from my private sector background, which is very successful, was that the technical skills were held by the centre, and they were actually dispersed to the various different brands, for example, as they were used. So what that meant was, one, that as a CIO, for example, if you were a CIO from the centre in a brand, then you were there longer than the 1 year. You may be in that brand for a particular skill set or period of time, but you'd move around. Two things happen there. One is you're not there just for your profile and your CV, then out into something else. The second thing is you can be measured, and you're measured on your success with that, and also your trainees to move on to another stage of your development, personal development, as well as the departmental development. That's one piece. I think it's also very tricky when you label things as DDAT, digital data and technology, and put them into one particular area. And the reason for that is that where there is most success in transformation is when the operational function is able to enable and configure, I would say, change closest to the point of the customer interaction. So by all means, in the technical space, you want to keep your technical things focused in there, and there's technology across all of it. but try to move those things out. I term it as, don't think of it as digital data and technology, think of it as digital as the bubble everything is in, and inside of that you have the attributes such as design, technology, data, and then you can break that down further into the skill sets, types of skills you need, and those sort of areas as well.
And obviously, one of the things that people always cite is a level of risk aversion in the public sector. And there is massive risk aversion when you're taking on the big challenge of digital transformation. But at this moment in time, there's also an enormous risk in terms of the cyber threat. And you were famously the CIO at London 2012, which is one of the most high-profile events ever held in this country. And we, by the time this goes out, will be looking back at the Tokyo Olympics, and I hope that they don't fall foul to any type of cyber threat. But share with us what your experiences were in terms of ensuring the cyber defences for that you possibly think that your counterparts in Tokyo at the moment will be facing in their role.
Well, I think in one sense I was perhaps fortunate at the timing, being 2012, that we were starting to look at cloud and move to cloud. So one of the things to bear in mind is in the actual running of the games, that the running of the games is almost a set piece of, if you like, tooling, if you like, people skills, etc., that comes into play. And that was usually brought over from Barcelona and implanted into the country of where it works. And obviously, if you look at other games such as Rio, for example, the infrastructure is not going to be so great. I'm sure Tokyo's is. So therefore, actually using cloud for backing things up, cloud for being able to recover from, etc., was key and critical to what we actually wanted to achieve. I think, as you've said before, alluded to, there's a panel discussion that was talking about cybersecurity. I would recommend that people go and look to that, because in that you can see that some of the conversations around the depth of that security, how you do that in layers, in different citadels, so you make sure you've got protection at all places, and actually be able to pull things together centrally across one platform to be able to recover is actually one of the keys to being successful in that space. I think you wouldn't underestimate as well that in the design and construction phase of the games, there are lots of different people. 27,000 people at peak were involved in that, from the building side of it to facilities, etc., and so on. That's an awful lot of people. It's like a FTSE 100 company growing and then being shrunk again immediately after both the Olympics and Paralympic events. So you do as much as you can around vetting and security vetting of people. That's not going to be enough. There's an awful lot around training. There's an awful lot about systems you put in, so you know who's doing what on what keyboard in what systems, what data are they pulling up. So there's a lot of tools that we're using to try and get visual aspects of what's going on there and analytics around behaviour. And of course we had people that were, let's say, misbehaving or weren't doing things quite right, and we were able to pinpoint those straight away and rectify them, and we could always recover, which was the main thing. That was the key thing. To take a day out at the Olympics was around about £2 million.
Wow. Anyway, so enormously interesting speaking to you, Iain. If people are interested in some of the cybersecurity aspects, Iain referred to a panel discussion that we've recently done, which is Reckoning on Ransomware with Commonwealth. But if people are also interested in the digital transformation exercise, then I would recommend that they all rock up to Digital Transformation Expo in London in early October. We'll provide links so that you can actually register for the event, and we hope to see you there. I will be one of the speakers at the event, and there'll be a lot of notable other experts that I hope will be sharing a lot of experience and insights with you. Good luck.